Yo, hello everybody. Welcome, welcome to my stream. Hold on, just gonna double check if it's actually even running. Yeah, we are live. Okay, cool. I'm just gonna read some Aesop's fables before I go to sleep. Uh, Hopefully it doesn't sound like too choppy because, okay, I don't know. I feel like this media pipe tracker thing might be causing some sort of like crackly noises in my microphone. I'm not sure how to fix that, but whatever. Um, just deal with it. So, anyways, we start on. Yeah, like I don't like how it's doing that to my microphone. Because maybe I'm just better off not doing the tracking if it's gonna make that noise, like motion capture. Is this better? Like, yeah. See, you're not gonna hear any crackling now, but can I still like? I can. I can know it does still do it. But I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, I should probably try and share my screen. So, how do that in OBS? Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay. All right, because this is cropped. Okay. Oh no, no, no. Save that. Just go to browser. Let's just make a browser. And so why might you want to read stories? Well, there's some benefits to it. Let's just how do I interact with this? Okay, maybe not. Not like that. Okay. So when you read stories, you cultivate your ability to storytell, of course, and um when you learn new ideas from stories, you also build up your own imagination. So you're better at coming up with solutions, creative solutions for problem solving in that sense as well. And it might seem like counterintuitive, like okay, well, we're reading something that's completely unrelated. Like these are Aesop's fables. They're like stories for kids, right? But no, it actually is very correlated with cultivating a strong imagination. And this was the example I give you is the author of Frankenstein. Actually, hold on, I might need to say all this. Okay, yeah. So the author of Frankenstein, she was a she was raised by two intellectual parents, and they basically like taught her to be like imaginative by like they basically forced it, like so like I should like yeah peace sign. um, they basically force the sense of like imagination onto the child because they came from like an intellectual background. They're like we want to make our children intellectual, and so what they did is like, okay, let's let her read things that are like cultivate her imagination, like Aesop's fables, 1001 Arabian Nights, and all these sort of things, right? So I find it pretty interesting. Just 1 second. Maybe I could do it like this. Okay, because so yeah. Anyways, so the first story, I'll probably just put the link in the description because if you guys want to read it at the same time as I'm reading it, it'll be on the YouTube channel. So the frogs and the ox. Okay, I kind of do like to have the picture though, and so I'm just trying to figure out how to add this onto my OBS. Sorry for being disorganized. Window capture. Okay, try that one. There you go. Okay, so here you go. The frogs and the ox. Oh, sorry, I can put my video over here maybe, and then make myself smaller. There you go. Now we can read this at the same time. Okay, so okay. The frogs and the ox. Okay, let's just click on the picture and see what happens first. The frog gets bigger. Okay. The frog says bigger as well. He gets bigger and he explodes. Okay. The frogs and the ox. An ox came down to a reedy pool to drink. As he splashed heavily into the water, he crushed a young frog into the mud. The old frog soon missed the little one and asked his brothers and sisters what had become of him. A great big monster, said one of them, stepped on little brother with one of his huge feet. Big was he, said the old frog, puffing herself up. Was he as big as this? Oh, much bigger, they cried. The frog puffed up still more. He could not have been bigger than this, she said. But the little frogs all declared that the monster was much, much bigger, and the old frog kept puffing herself out more and more until all at once she burst. Do not attempt the impossible. Okay, so what kind of like lessons can we get out of this? Um, it's about like the uh like like your ego basically. There's like the saying in Arabic. I'm not sure if where it comes from exactly, but it's like your arrogance cannot move mountains. And so like when you talk about like thinking you're capable of doing things that are quite literally impossible, like as an individual you probably can't move a mountain unless it's like a very tiny mountain. And so um yeah, so like just trying to show like this what is it called, this old frog who is like trying to show off to the little frogs like in the picture here. She ended up dying. Why? Because she tried doing something that was impossible, and this is in terms of the aspect of physicality, but it's meant to be applied to as a more general rule. Like, don't try to do things which are quite literally impossible for your human body. Don't try to do things that are quite literally impossible for you in general. And so, when you talk about therapy, for example, that's what I tie it back to. Don't try to like deal with your problems on your own because um your perspective is quite limited in the sense of like you probably don't understand psychology, and you probably don't understand like when a lot of people are not that self-aware, and so they need other people to basically point out how they are and how this behavior ties back to a trauma response like fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And so like you need somebody who's like good at pattern finding basically, and can do that for you in a lot of cases. But yeah, let's keep reading. So let's go to the next story. Belling the cat. By the way, I'm probably gonna just finish at like, let's see, 2 + 15, like what, 17 minutes? Yeah, belling the cat. Okay. We've got some mice here, and we've got a cat, and the mice are talking. So the mice once called a meeting to decide on a plan to free themselves of their enemy, the cat. At least they wished to find some way of knowing when she was coming, so they might have time to run away. Indeed, something had to be done, for they lived in such constant fear of her claws that they hardly dared stir from their dens by night or day. Many plans were discussed, but none of them was thought good enough. At last, a very young mouse got up and said, "I have a plan that seems very simple, but I know it will be successful. All we have to do is hang a bell around the cat's neck. When we hear the bell ringing, we will know immediately that our enemy is coming." All the mice were much surprised that they had not thought of such a plan before. But in the midst of the rejoicing over their good fortune, an old mouse arose and said, "I will say that the plan of the young mouse is very good, but let me ask one question. Who will bell the cat?" Okay, and the moral of the story is, it is one thing to say that something should be done, but quite a different matter to do it. Right. So we can see this like in basically anything in life. You could talk about, like people telling you like, go do your chores, or like go do your homework, and then like it's a different thing to actually do the thing, right? Like that you have planned to do as well. Like even if you had it in your own plans, if you have a schedule to follow, like you need sort of like a motivation or like some sort of encouragement, positive encouragement to drive you to do the thing, or you probably won't want to do it. And so it's not enough to just, yeah, it's not enough to say something should be done. Um, actually doing it, like actually putting it into practice is a different thing. It's pretty simple, straightforward message. And so when we apply this to therapy and like psychology, um, let's say like let's say you suffer from like a flight response behavior. So whenever you're confronted with a stressful situation, you sort of like escape from it. And this could be into like escaping into your own mind. This is like where maladaptive daydreaming, that sort of like symptom comes from, like just escaping from reality and into a sort of like into your mind's eye, your imagination. Or like escaping into like reading novels and stuff. That's like more like a, if you like reading, like you might escape into that. And that could also be tied to maladaptive daydreaming. Like as you're reading, you vision yourself into a what do you call it? Into a sort of like a fantasy scenario, like like the isekai basically. And we talk about, what do you call it? Um, the trauma response tied to this, like I can show you here. On this one website. This is a very interesting website, Trait Indicator. This is typically associated with like INFPs. They have high empathy, they have high creativity, and so, well, okay, if, it's probably not going to load today. I don't know why it's not been loading, but yeah, something's up with the website right now. But basically, it was the idea that they have a flight response, as in they want to um they want to escape from like reality, and that sorry, escape from the stress. Like let's say like your grandfather dies, how would they react? Maybe they like, oh sorry, their grandfather dies, how did they react? So they might just run away from the situation, or they might just start like having vivid daydreams, right? Like that, they're both flight responses, but, or like procrastinating doing the things that need to be done, like, you know um you could even be like arranging the funeral, like maybe they witnessed the death. So yeah, um there are a lot of different types of like trauma responses, and not necessarily all of them can be categorized into fight, flight, fawn, or freeze, but these are like the main four types. And so, um, sorry, I should try to tie it back to the actual moral of the story. So you got this. Yeah. So, I could tell you like, okay, just learn how to mimic other people, but you might have like trouble, doing that, right? Like let's say I want to learn how to fly a pilot, like fly a plane, right? And so I watch a actual pilot, and he flips like all these different switches. He has to turn like the engine on in a certain way, and like I'm watching him, and so like I could maybe try and imitate it, but if I don't have a very good strong memory, I wouldn't be able to memorize the exact order he did the things, and so I wouldn't be able to um like, unless I have a really strong imagination, and like I could conceptualize all the different steps and put them like into steps, like a step by step process basically. Um, or like if I have a checklist, maybe like that's what actual pilots have. They have checklists to check against, like, okay, have I done this? Have I done that? Right? Um, like I could say like, okay, just copy a pilot, and then you'd be a pilot, right? You'd be a professional pilot. It's one thing to say that, but it's different to actually be able to copy a pilot one to one. You'd have to have a very strong logical like reason. You have to have very strong subconscious processing basically. That's the main important one. Very strong ability to like memorize facts and details. Like, okay, this guy did this and then he did that. And then like extrapolate all those different things into like, okay, well, and also like piloting the plane. Like maybe you only played Flight Simulator, and that's the only knowledge you have on like how to land a plane. But if you can apply the theory from Flight Simulator into real life, you could actually still pilot a plane, right? As long as you knew how to start the plane. And so it is a different matter to do it, but I feel like if you're very competent, or like you're very intelligent, you can actually pull off doing things that you say you can do. And this ties back to the idea of I mentioned in the previous video, but like ego lifting to learn new ideas. Okay, so like when we talk about ego lifting, as in like a bodybuilder has an ego and he's like, okay, I think I can lift this. Or like somebody who's into fitness. Oh, sorry, I haven't been paying attention to how my avatar might look. Oh, I'm all the way down here because I'm sitting in a weird way. Okay, I probably have to sit up. Hold on. Okay, but yeah, when we talk about like what do you call it? I wonder how this looks like when I'm just like, I put my hand in my head. It doesn't really look like it. It's like I put my hand in my chest. That's not really like correct. Yeah, but anyways, like I could like, so like basically, guys, blah 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 blah. I wonder if like it's worth doing that with the hand movements. I think it's like I like the to do like peace signs. Let's see. I don't really know what other hand signs like. Oh yeah, waving. Waving is pretty normal. But anyways, sorry, clean my eyes. Yeah, so when bodybuilders are like, oh, I could lift that easily, right? Or like, if they saw like a woman do it, they'd be like, okay, this obviously has to be something that I'm capable of doing because maybe they believe that women are inferior in the sense of like they are less strong than men, and that's their perception, right? I'm not saying that's true or false. But like biologically, it could be true in most situations and not all situations. And so ego lifting applied to actually like your ability to learn new things or like your ability to get good at something. Okay, so um, this only works if you have like a very strong like what do you call it? Either a very strong sense of self or like a very big superiority complex. Okay, at least like outwardly, but like also internally in terms of like the way you process like and think about things. So like me personally, I don't judge myself as better or worse than anyone, and that's part of like being a good therapist is about not judging other people, open communication, honest communication, and so like I say whatever's on my mind. I don't mask as like an autistic person, but if I did mask, I would be like I'd probably want to speak more mannered and speak less like erratically. Like for example, hey guys, what is going on? My name is yada yada yada. And like I could speak slowly and talk in a paced way, and you think like, oh, okay, this guy's pretty normal. It's not just like autistic people don't speak like as fast as me. That's just because of like my highly fast like ability of some subconscious reasoning basically. But like autistic people don't really think about things like social cues, mainly because they value the truth more than what do you call it? Than other people's feelings. Okay, that's my like sort of like understanding of when you're on the spectrum. You just say whatever's on your mind and you say whatever you believe is true, and that's what is perceived as like not being good at social norms basically. Like um I give you an example, like you're sitting in like the cafeteria or something at school and somebody says to you like um and you're it's like say you're on the spectrum, somebody says to you like um my dog just died or something, and then you're like, oh cool, did you take a picture or something? Like it's like you had a genuine curiosity about it, right? This could be like sociopathy as well. Like you don't think about like oh well, if I had a dog and my dog died, I'd be sad. But like you just have a curiosity and you're concerned about like the truth. Like truth isn't like uh did the dog actually die? Like do you have a picture for it? And so you could ask them like such a rude question, but it would be like societally perceived as rude. But in terms of like what they said is not inherently bad. It's just a curiosity. Like, do you have a picture of it? Um, but like the society would view that as like, oh, you're a bad person for wanting to see a dead dog. Like basically that's and so like I have an experience where I when I was younger I like uploaded a picture of my dead cockatiel like when she died in the cage, and so I was thinking like like that's interesting. I guess I'll put it on my Instagram. And then like someone told me like, dude, you can't just put your dead pet bird on Instagram. And so, like I kind of like stopped putting things on Instagram after that. But yeah, I did bury that bird. You know, I felt like okay, she deserves a burial. She was a very smart bird, by the way. It's like you but yeah, and so ego lifting. I don't. Sorry, I keep getting distracted. We tie it back to like the concept of like learning new things. Okay, the example of this guy I met. So like he's an INTJ. If you want to like think about what sort of cognitive functions he's using, NI-DOM, and he's like external thinking. So like he cares about empirical evidence over what do you call it? The I like an INFJ would care about external feelings, like how does society view things, and a INTJ they're more concerned like the short term in terms of like benefiting themselves and also like in terms of like benefiting themselves in the short term. They don't think about the future as much as INFJs as well. That's another pattern you can draw there. But like thinker types in general, they are short term mind, and so like I meet like ENTPs and they're typically like 136 or like 135 IQ based on my judgment, and like they're pretty good logical reasoning. But then I tell them like, okay, if you consider yourself this smart, why are you still drinking energy drinks? Why are you still drinking all this like processed junk? And they just tell me like, oh well, I just enjoy them. It's like you you're drinking something that's killing your body. Why don't you actually look into it like nutritionally? What are the consequences of it? I guess like they don't really care. They don't think about it. Because they're concerned with the short term. Meanwhile, like feeler types, they'd be like an my sister for example, she's an INFP and she thinks like, oh well, in the future we're gonna need we're gonna need housing as like an individual. I need a house to live in, right? And what is the problem in like the Australian economy? We have uh rising costs of housing. Okay, and so you think until the long term, like from let's say like we're right here. Oh, sorry. Let's say like we're right here, and then like over here is where the future is. Okay, right now the price is going up and up and up and up and up and up, and we're like somewhere here, and we're hoping that like we can buy a house in the future. It doesn't seem like it's very likely that's possible, especially when wages are more like they go like from here they go up very very slowly, and also when we factor in inflation into wages, the actual like the amount of goods and services you can buy at this point is actually less in the future. So the wage the wage the wage rates basically stagnate, and the cost of living rises, and so your wages actually go down in the grand scheme of things. Meanwhile, housing is an asset. People value the undeveloped value of land in terms of like the utility of being able to live on it, being able to make use of it in other ways. And so the value of housing is going to go up, and it's actually going to go up even more because as the amount of land in the world decreases, basically, right? And so my sister, who's an INFP, she's a feeler type F. She would be like, my okay, because how INFPs think about things, they have FI as one of their functions, and so they think about their personal feelings on things. Okay, and so like how do I feel about how do I feel about like housing? Well, I believe that I need a house to live in the future. Okay, that's my personal value. Not all INFPs are going to have that personal value. I'm not saying I'm an INFP, by the way. I'm just saying like in general, as the example, And so like if you personally value housing, you're going to want housing in the future, and you're going to think about, okay, is it actually realistic for me to be able to get housing in the future? And then you look at like the variables and stuff, and you say, actually, no, it's not going to be if I'm working as a wage, like as a wage slave, like 9 to 5 office job, whatever. And so, what conclusions might you draw? Like, okay, in order to get the life I want, which is to get a house, I need to start a business, right? You might draw that conclusion as an INFP, or you might think like, okay, well, um, I have to marry somebody rich in order to get money. Okay, that might be like another conclusion you could draw, like because you value having a house in the future. Okay, and so I think it's pretty interesting to think about other people's perspectives on life and how they think about like problems and whatnot. But yeah. So I want to just like quickly wrap up this thing on ego lifting. So sorry about that sidetrack. So bodybuilders will be like, okay, I can lift that, and they'll try and lift it. That's called ego lifting. You can apply the same to learning. So if my INTJ friend, he's like, okay, I was told by like others growing up that multitasking is something that only women can do, and that men are not good at multitasking. Okay, and so if you have like a really strong ego, you're gonna be like, okay, I look at this statement, and I think like this is a challenge. Like I could be good at multitasking as a man. Okay, and so basically it's like an ego lifting challenge, but for cerebral activity, like mental development. And so he's like, okay, I'm gonna start practicing multitasking. I'm gonna try and do like multiple things at once, and gradually build up that skill. And so after enough time, he was able to do like 9 different skills at once. Okay, and so you can develop new cognitive behaviors, and that's why when we tie it back to therapy, like you can get rid of negative trauma responses if you believe they're negative. You can like if you have an open mind to changing your like behavior, as in like you want to change. Okay, let's like Jordan Peterson. He gives us the example of like clean your room, and it's like he tells you like what is it, something about crabs or something like that. There's some sort of meme there, but like um basically the idea of like if you want to be a more hardworking person, from it has to start from today. Okay, and so what are some behaviors that a hardworking person might do? Like you want to copy a hardworking person. Well, a hardworking person would wake up, they would get out of bed, and they would actually make their bed. Okay, you make your bed straight away, and then if you had like a messy floor, for example, in your room, okay, like I mean, I know like a lot of women typically have like very messy rooms, okay, and there are actually like negative consequences in terms of like in terms of my religious beliefs, there are actually negative consequences for having a dirty room, but like in terms of like spirits would start like haunting you and like damaging your life. But like if we're just talking like in terms of like purely mental and like emotional things, like okay, emotionally, depending on like your upbringing, you might think like okay, a messy room is actually more comfortable for me, or you might think, well, a messy room is actually um really stressful to me. Okay, like if I was raised in a very clean upbringing, this is sort of like how I was raised. My like if I look around my in my room right now, everywhere is like very clean. Everywhere is very nice and tidy and organized for the most part, except for like my own sort of like table and stuff. It's not so organized. Um, when I walk around the house though, I won't find any sort of dirty messes. And so when we talk about like what do you call it? When we talk about like if I went into a messy room, I'm literally like cleaning it in my eyes because I'm used to just very clean environments. Okay, and so um, for the person who like sees a messy room and they think like, okay, this is a good comfortable thing. What they need to do is like start from today and think like, okay, like it's a mindset shift. Like I'm a clean person. Clean people when they wake up, like I'm a hardworking person. Hardworking people when they wake up, they clean their room, and so you've adopted a new trait about yourself, right? And this relies on having a lower sense of self, like as in like you don't have a defined sense of self. If you feel very strongly about your personality trait, like I can't change this about myself, you're boxing yourself in, right? Because you need to have a growth mindset, as in like I'm able to grow as a person, and also this is tied to disassociation. So being disassociated from your ego, if you feel like I'm a soul inside of a body, this is more like an NI-DOM trait. Um, but it's like NIFE thing, right? Like um, external feeling. If you care about external feelings to the point that you essentially value you value what other people value more than you value like what you stand up for yourself, then you lose your sense of self, and that's like disassociation. So do be aware of that if you do care about your own like sense of self. I would argue that like if you have a good objective morality to bind your like choices in what's good or what's bad, then not having a sense of self would actually be a benefit. Like um and typically like this is a trait for like INFJs, and so like Jesus was an INFJ. Okay, let's like say Jesus believed that his whole entire like all of humanity was his in group, and like and I hear Christians saying like this claim like Jesus broke bread with prostitutes and tax collectors. Okay, and so when you evaluate this statement, it's like you should be humble to the point that you're willing to learn from anyone or like willing to hear from anybody's perspective, regardless if they're a sinner or not. Okay, and like also the idea of like judge the judge the sinner. Sorry, judge the sin, but not the sinner, right? Because only God is the one who can judge things, right? But like yeah, like I said, I'm not Christian. I'm a Muslim, and so when I think about these things, you know, uh, I think like I want to be better than the Christians. This is like maybe a bit of like an ego lifting myself, right? Um, I want to be better than the Christians as a Muslim, and so I want to be as humble as them, and so I want to be non judgmental, just like they claim Jesus was, and also as Muslims we believe Jesus was a prophet of God. So in that sense, like we we should follow like if that's the real teaching, then we should follow that. But yeah. Um. Anyways, I'm probably gonna just go to sleep. I've kind of tired myself. But like, yeah, you can challenge your if you have a strong sense of self and a high ego, you can challenge yourself to learn new skills and learn new traits. Or there's also the other motivation, which is like a fawn response isn't like you care about other people's feelings, right? And so for me, I care about other people's feelings to the extent that like I'm willing to change a trait about myself to accommodate for them, right? And that might seem like very fickle, as in like, oh, I'm willing to change my personality in like less than a day, right? But I see it as like I have a low enough ego to be able to change something that I think is bad about myself. Okay, like if I see a flaw in myself, and of course like I'm gonna have sort of like like a I'm gonna have certain like characteristics that, like for example, mental illnesses that might lead me to acting more in certain ways than others, right? But when we talk about um like things that I could easily work on, like having better manners, trying to conform to social cues, trying to speak slower so other people can understand me, right? I could do all those things. It's just I choose not to because I can't be bothered masking basically. But yeah, um, what was my point? Oh yeah, so when we talk about the fawn trauma response, okay, we can basically mimic anybody. If you have a fawn trauma response, you can basically mimic any sort of behavior, right? Um, and so like the plain example, you could watch a pilot do something and then just completely copy them, okay? But that's like mimicry is one part of fawn. It's not the only thing. But like so this is where the reputation of like people who have the fawn trauma response, they tend to be like people pleasers, right? That's the idea. And it's because they're concerned with the external feeling, as in like how other people feel about like how society feels about things and how they feel about things. Okay, but for like you could like okay, so if somebody told you like I manipulate others and I do it in this way, and like here are some of the learning techniques that I learned, like for example hypervigilance, attention to frequencies, like extreme attentiveness to different frequencies, and like for example paying attention to the tapping of a table, like you saw how I did it all at the same like frequency, right? Like the time between each tap was the same, whereas I could do it like you see like how that was more annoying, like it's all over the place, right? Like, and that's where the idea of Chinese water torture comes from. Like, you're like, oh well, the water is dropping, but it's dropping at such an like unpredictable sort of pattern that it's actually stressful and like it becomes torture, right? And so not necessarily like always like frequent different frequencies, but like when we talk about musical theory as well, like musical notes are typically paced at the same sort of like frequency between each other, and so you can train, and also like it's like a psychopath learns all these skills, and he learns also like like this guy's like a serial killer, like he memorizes every single lie he tells other people, and so he can never make the same lie twice, right? Or like let's say he's not even a serial killer, he's like a manipulator, and he's got like 12 people who he considers like his loyalists, and they're like dogs on his leash, right? And so somebody with external feeling would be like, okay, I'm worried for society, so I'd want this guy like locked up. But if I can't do that, I at least want to protect myself and my family. And so what you might do is you develop countermeasures. Okay, like you look at this guy's personality objectively. And you're like, okay, I don't like the idea of lying and manipulating others, but the hypervigilance to frequencies, the constantly absorbing all sorts of information around you as well. Like, if a psychopath was doing this stuff, and also like remembering everything that you hear, if a psychopath was doing this, the best countermeasure is actually to think like how he thinks. And this is like I was tutored on criminal psychology, so that's why like I'm pretty cognizant of this. Thinking how criminals think is the best way to try and catch criminals, and the best way to protect yourself against criminals and manipulations from other criminals, right? And so like if you had a very like dangerous upbringing with lots of like horrible people around you, let's say like in Detroit or something like that, you know, like there's cities like that are really bad in a lot of different places in the world. And so like if you lived in an environment with lots of like um scum and villainy and crime, you would naturally become like very vigilant, right? You'd be like very aware. And so you'd be like we call this like street sense, like in a colloquial way, but what it means is like you're constantly paying attention to details to the point that like if something is gonna come up that seems like suspicious, like I give you like an example, like you walk past a dark alleyway and you think like, okay, something bad might happen, I'm gonna go away from that dark alleyway. um there might be no logical thing, that's just like an emotional gut response. Whereas like an INTJ, they care about empirical evidence. So like, okay, well, there's an observation here that this alleyway is in a high crime area, and that the lights are off. And when lights are off in alleyways, dangerous things might happen more likely. So, but yeah, the idea of criminal psychology. Sorry, I'm just gonna like fix this so I can be down here. Yeah, yeah. Okay. The idea of like criminal psychology, um, as a tool to catch criminals or to protect yourself and your family against criminals. That's a very much like FE sort of way of thinking, as in like you would want to protect the other people's feelings, as in like you don't like people getting lied to because they like you feel for the people who get lied to, or you like that's an empathetic response, like, or you feel sympathy for them, like you've been lied to before and you know how bad it feels to get lied to, and so you feel for them, you feel for them like, oh, he like I know it's like, you know, that kind of like sort of way of thinking. But yeah, anyways, I gotta go sleep, guys. So this, I mean, probably nobody was even watching the stream, but it's gonna be on YouTube, so make sure you like, comment, subscribe, follow for more videos. uh Peace.